Good evening, and welcome to Lben Tea House. I am your host, Lben. Why suddenly support online food ordering, you may ask? Because a few days ago, a company specializing in food delivery reached out to me wanting to collaborate. Customers could order online and we would deliver tea right to their homes. Not only would it not cost me a dime, but they'd also give me a subsidy for every order. When I heard about this great deal, I quickly signed the contract. However, Uncle Wen heard about this and gave me an earful, saying it's best not to mess with these things. Who would be so lazy as to not even want to make tea themselves and have to order it as a delivery? I told him, Uncle, you're just not keeping up with the times, not understanding the internet economy. After hearing this, he shared with me a story from his younger days. Uncle Wen is my father's friend from Hong Kong. Around 50 years old this year. He seems to have been divorced or something. I didn't inquire too deeply. His wife is from the Northeast. In the past few years, as the mainland's economy has soared, they both moved back to the embrace of the motherland. He said that when he was young, he was nothing like now. He had no idea about doing business or had any interest in schooling. Just idling his days away. The incident happened in December of 1989, at a tea restaurant in the New Territories of Hong Kong. That year, 19-year-old Uncle Wen worked in that tea restaurant. December is the coldest month in Hong Kong and, of course, the time when the restaurant had the most takeaway orders. The restaurant, called Chang Yong Ki, was an age-old establishment, usually serving simple homemade dishes like coffee, egg tarts, rice noodle rolls, and egg fried rice. Back then, the area was all village houses with a few scattered villas. They were all old neighbors who had lived together for decades. Many of the older folks who have been eating there since they were young, unlike today's new territories, filled with commercial centers. High-rise buildings, the disappearance of village houses, villas springing up everywhere, rampant drug problems, and no one recognizing anyone anymore. The day of the incident was an ordinary one. At that time, Uncle Wen was still very young, let's just call him Ah Wen. On this day, a young lad named Ah Wen received a phone call at the tea restaurant. Hello, Chang Yong Ki Tea Restaurant. A noisy background came through the call, sounding like someone was playing mahjong, and a man's unclear voice ordered some dishes. Could you please give me a tomato and egg over rice, 2 servings of beef ho fun, 4 cups of milk tea with less sugar, and 1 roast goose rice? Ah Wen confirmed the order and jotted down that it needed to be delivered to a villa in Happy Show Garden on the west side of Dabu Tian. Hong Kong's tea restaurants are famous for their prompt service, and before long, the food was packaged and ready to go. Ah Wen jumped on his bicycle and with a basket full of takeaways, he hurried toward Happy Show Garden. Upon reaching the address left in the phone call, Ah Wen rang the doorbell several times. After a long wait with no response, he knocked on the door and called out loudly. Hello, your takeaway is here. I am the attendant from Chang Yong Ki. I've come to deliver your food. After a while, the door opened a small crack, and the customer handed money out, instructing Ah Wen to leave the food at the doorstep. Ah Wen found it a bit odd, but the money was paid, so without giving it much thought, he complied. The restaurant was especially busy at the time, and he needed to rush back. The day passed without incident, but that evening, after closing, while the owner was tallying the day's earnings, he surprisingly discovered a stack of Ming Dynasty coins in the cash box. Initially, he thought it was a prank by an attendant or an apprentice. Since it wasn't quite bedtime, he called everyone together, but nobody knew anything about it. Everyone found it strange. Who would play such a joke? Even if someone wanted to steal money, they wouldn't leave ancient coins in the cash register. Wasn't that asking for trouble? However, the boss was always easygoing and broad-minded. He let the matter slide without further fuss. The next day, after the tea restaurant closed and the boss was counting the money, he found another stack of Ming coins in the cash register. This time, he got a little scared and quickly called all the apprentices and attendants over, wondering who could be so careless, not only accepting counterfeit bills but also ancient coins. On reminiscing together, they realized that earlier that day, they had received another meal order from the same villa in Happy Show Garden. This time, the customer ordered some rice noodle rolls and rice, just like a few days ago, telling the attendant to leave the takeaway at the door while they stuffed the money through the door slit. The boss, while angry, felt something was off and told the staff that if there was another takeaway call from this house, he would deliver it personally. As expected, on the third day at the same time, the restaurant received another takeaway order for beef noodles, char siu rice, and similar items. Following the plan that had been made, This time the boss went to deliver the food himself. Upon reaching the door and knocking, it wasn't long before someone pushed money out through the slit. The boss tried to take the chance to see what it looked like inside, or who was handing out the money, but he couldn't see anything. The person on the other side was quick. They pushed the money out and immediately closed the door, with a shout of "Leave it at the door," followed by the sounds of mahjong and card games. However, the boss thought it might really just be a group of addicts and refrained from further suspicion. He only needed to ensure the money was legitimate. So, he counted and verified the money himself, using a newly purchased ultraviolet currency detector. After inspecting it carefully, the monetary notes proved to be genuine, issued by the Standard Chartered Bank, a legitimate Hong Kong currency. He thus left the food at the door and returned to his shop with the money. After returning to the tea restaurant, the boss mulled over it and felt there was something extraordinarily peculiar about these transactions. Almost as if he was compelled by an unknown force, he deliberately placed the money received from that house in a separate section of the cash box. Coming evening, when tallying up, he discovered that all the other money was intact except for the separately stored cash, which had turned into Ming Dynasty coins. And wasn't this the very money he brought back after delivering to Happy Show Garden? Staring at the Ming coins, the boss felt a chill run through him, a cold shiver of dread, and in his panic, he reported the matter to the police. After receiving the emergency call, the police quickly dispatched officers to investigate the suspicious villa. No matter how they knocked on the door, there was no response from inside, and the doorbell also seemed to be broken. Following repeated warnings with no answer, the police forced entry and, to their shock, found deceased bodies lying on the floor. It seemed the individuals had died several days ago, with the time of death being at least 4 or 5 days prior. The police immediately cordoned off the area for investigation. When questioning the neighbors nearby, they were surprised to learn that the neighbors were completely unaware of the deaths, as they had been hearing mahjong sounds from that house over the past few days. Although there were no voices, the sound of shuffling mahjong tiles was quite clear, especially during the quiet of the night, when the shuffle sounds were particularly loud. The police conducted autopsies and forensic analysis, and found that all 4 individuals had been dead for over a week. An unbelievable phenomenon left the medical examiners speechless. In the stomachs of the 4 deceased, they found fresh food that appeared to have been consumed no more than 1 to 2 days prior, including beef, rice noodles, and char siu, among other items. This occurrence is biologically impossible, as how can a corpse consume food? According to Western medical and anatomical theory, once a person dies, the digestion of food ceases. However, based on mass spectrometry analysis and the composition of stomach acids and fermenting bacteria, the exact time of food intake could be determined. The undigested food remnants in the deceased's stomach matched exactly with the takeouts delivered by Chang Yong Ki Tea restaurant in the past few days. As if this technical result wasn't shocking enough, police found upon examining the Ming Dynasty coins retrieved from the restaurant fingerprints not only of Ah Wen, the delivery attendant, and the boss, but also of 2 of the deceased. Hong Kong people are known for their superstition. With such an event occurring, the villagers nearby felt a sense of gloom, deeming it extremely unlucky. So, some sought the expertise of a master, who upon examination found that the villa's doorway was facing northeast, directly towards the ghost gate, and was extremely yin heavy. The time of death coincided with a time associated with violent energies, meaning what exactly? It meant that at that time, the souls had not left their bodies. They believed they were still living in the human realm, continuing with their daily routines of eating and playing cards. It was not until the police barged into the room, with a surge of yang energy entering, that it broke this energy field and released their trapped souls. The actual cause of death for these individuals was carbon monoxide poisoning from using charcoal for warmth, leading to their death by poisoning while asleep after playing mahjong. In historical records, the winter of 1989 in Hong Kong was the coldest ever recorded, with temperatures as low as 3 to 8 degrees Celsius. After the incident was disclosed, it was feverishly reported by major newspapers and media outlets. When the media interviewed a police spokesperson, the police gave what they believed to be the most objective analysis of the findings. And it was these inexplicable results that were sensationalized by the media, turning into the most explosive paranormal event in Hong Kong's history. The authorities did not deny these occurrences, so after the incident was reported, the Hong Kong government was seen as having implicitly acknowledged it. Over the following decade, the event came to be known as the first and only ghostly occurrence that hadn't been concealed by the government. With that, the clerk asked me, "So, what do you think, lad? Still keen on delivering takeout recklessly? You have a new order from L.Me, please handle it promptly." "All right, Friends, that's the story for this episode. I hope this tale doesn't cause any trouble for our delivery brothers. True events also need to be reprocessed by some artistry. I believe that all the last buses are haunted, no matter which route they take, and all you buddies should take care of yourselves. That's all for today's program. Thank you for tuning in to Lben Tea House. I am Lben, and I'll see you next time.